Today we're going to take a close look at this dripper here from Blue Bottle Coffee. There are many brands that buy some private label products from China and slap their own name and logo on it. Is this what Blue Bottle has done here, or is this dripper actually something unique that deserves a spot in your dripper collection? Today the plan is to review the dripper, brew some coffee and hopefully answer that question for you. Recently I've been talking a lot about Kalita drippers and the various problems. A few people here on the channel commented and suggested that I should try out the Blue Bottle dripper instead. So I went ahead and got one. I should say that it's not exactly easy to get one of these if you don't live in one of the countries where Blue Bottle operates. As far as I know, you can buy the dripper online in the US and Canada, and also in Blue Bottle stores in Japan. But if you don't live in one of those places, you might have to talk to a friend abroad who can ship it to you, or you can get it from eBay or one of those other platforms like that. So the first thing you might be wondering when you see this dripper is whether it's legit or not. And I think that's actually a fair question to raise. We live in a world where so many brands just put out products that they don't really have anything to do with. This is what's often referred to as private label. So it's exactly the same thing when you see some headphones or a cap in an in-flight magazine. You can be pretty sure that the product whose logo is on it don't have anything to do with research and development. But from the get-go, Blue Bottle has actually been pretty clear that this is a passion product for the company. They have dedicated a lot of resources and time into testing different designs. Some pretty esteemed engineers and coffee people have been working on the development. There's a little booklet in the package where they talk about the dripper being inspired by science and nature, and that sounds a little bit like mumbo jumbo. Blue Bottle used to be this quite artistic, indie kind of brand, but then they were bought up by Nestlé a few years back, and for that reason a lot of people in the coffee world are slightly skeptical about Blue Bottle nowadays. There's this sense that they have sold out and betrayed their roots. But I will have to say, when you look at the dripper, the packaging, it doesn't seem like that kind of cheap merchandise that's just created to make a quick buck. I don't feel that they have cut any corners here. The dripper is produced in Japan in a village called Arita, which is famous for ceramics. It's actually the same place where Kalita and Hario and some of these other coffee brands make their drippers. It has a very nice glaze, and the overall design, I guess, is what you would call pretty stylish. I'm not sure about the Blue Bottle logo on the front. I think when it comes to logos and brand identity, Blue Bottle are actually really good at what they do, but it does feel a little bit weird to have a logo that's so prominent on the dripper. Hario and Kalita, for instance, are both a lot more subtle when it comes to the branding, and I think that's also how I personally prefer it. If you have a coffee shop, it's a bit weird to have a product that so explicitly advertises for a brand that's in a sense a competitor. So I guess with that decision it feels a bit more like this is a product that's aimed for home users. In many ways you could say that this dripper looks pretty much like a ceramic Kalita Wave. The main difference is that the Wave has 3 smaller drain holes, whereas the Blue Bottle dripper just has a single, slightly larger one. In theory, that should make the Blue Bottle dripper slower, but I find in real life that it actually has a really consistent and rather fast flow rate. But let's talk a bit more about that later. Now instead let's try to brew some coffee and then see how it performs in daily life. So I'm going to brew a medium dose in a pretty typical fashion for me. So that's a 1:16 ratio and that 3-5-8 pattern that I shared in one of my other brew guides. I'll put a link to the video down in the description. Okay, I'll add 20 grams of coffee. Grind size is kind of medium to fine. There's actually a Blue Bottle recipe as well, but it's a bit extreme with that 1:11 ratio. So first a bloom with 3 times the amount of coffee to water. So in this case that's 60 grams. Then I'll wait 45 seconds for the bloom. Then I quickly pour 5 times the amount of coffee to water. Give it a quick stir. As you can see, the water actually drains quite fast between each pour. So they might be right about some of their claims about the design of the dripper. And then finally I'll pour the remaining 50% with the mellow drip. Usually I use the Gabby Drip Master B, but today I'll switch things a little bit up. Actually very nice, very balanced coffee. In my testing of the Blue Bottle Dripper, I found that it's very good at making this kind of cup profile with a rather big body and a pretty good mouthfeel. It's very consistent. I haven't noticed much in terms of stalling or clogging at all, and it's got a quite good flow rate as well. I've been brewing both smaller cups down to 15 grams and used the small Kalita filters. And I've also made bigger cups with 30 grams of coffee, and I have to say that both have been working pretty well. In my testing, I've also tried a bunch of different brewing methods. I've tried the 4-6 method, more common flat bottom dripper techniques, and Blue Bottle's own recipe, and all styles have been working quite well. I've seen some people online say that it's very hard to make a bad cup of coffee with this dripper, and I think that's pretty spot on. It's a very forgiving dripper. It feels like the way they've constructed the bottom and the ribs around the drain holes is just very well done. No matter what, it's just really difficult to get in a situation where the drain hole is blocked. So it's capable of keeping a very uniform flow rate for most of the brew. This is good because you get a lot of flexibility when it comes to grind size, pouring technique, and so on. Now let's talk about the downsides. I think that the acidity and that kind of sparkling clarity that you can get with the ceramic Kalita Wave isn't quite as pronounced here. I've been experimenting with doing bigger blooms in order to draw out a bit more acidity. If you bloom with 2 times the coffee weight, like Blue Bottle suggests in their instruction, I think the coffee becomes a little bit dull. So let's say you're living in a place where it's difficult to buy the dripper, which basically is anywhere besides North America and Japan, then I'm not really sure it's worth investing in. Personally, I also like the ceramic Kalita Wave, and I'm not sure I can say that this model is just way better. I will say that it actually has a bit more of a predictable flow rate, but in daily life I'm not sure if it justifies spending a lot of extra money and going to extremes to get hold of one. Okay, time for the verdict. I think the Blue Bottle Dripper is a pretty cool product. I've been using it for a while now, and I can say that I'm quite happy to have it in my dripper collection. It's different compared to the Kalita and probably even better in some ways. That being said, it's also a bit more trouble to get your hands on, and I'm not really sure it's worth the hassle for most people. But if you're looking for a ceramic flat bottom dripper and you like the idea of one that's really consistent almost no matter what you throw at it, then this is probably the best one out there. Do you have the Blue Bottle Dripper? What do you think about it? Let me know down in the comment section. Oh, and before we wrap up, let me just mention that I will release some pretty interesting product reviews in the coming weeks. So if you're interested in grinders and brewing gear, then consider hitting the subscribe button down there somewhere. That's it for today. I'll see you in another coffee video very soon.